Hello and welcome everyone. I am Andrew Tropin, and today we talk about Emacs packages in GNU Guix. First of all, let's talk about the history, how packages appeared. Emacs is quite old software, and it always been an extensible thing, and many people already did a lot of work customizing their setups, and they shared snippets of elisp code between each others, and well prepared and organized snippet of code better to maintain as a separate entity, and people decided to share those snippets of code as a packages, which is customizable and may be reused by other people. So it was quite a natural process, and packages appeared even before package managers for Emacs born. And let's switch to my outline. First thing that we will explore today is Emacs init files. It's a quite important part of Emacs customization, and also it's important part of startup process. And three things that you can see here is used during startup process. And first of them is init-el. Probably a very well-known file for people who use Emacs is a file which will be read during startup of Emacs and will load all elisp customizations that user defines. Usually it's resides somewhere in Emacs D directory, or later it's more common in xdg-config directory emacs/init el. There are some other possibilities probably, and some other aliases for init-el, but in most cases most of the users will see this file and will use it for their customizations. And there are two more files which not that obvious and not very well known, but we will talk about them, and I will explain why it's important. Hello Demis, hello Oleg, nice to see you. The default EL file is something like init EL file, but provided by your software distribution in most cases in some system folder. Hello Adolfo. Here an info page of Emacs manual which describes in more details about init files, and here you can read more information. Hello Marcus. A lot of people here today, a lot of hellos. In basic distribution or more widespread distribution, it resides in the directory like user local share Emacs site lisp. In our case, it will be in a slightly different directory, but still somehow similar to this directory. It doesn't different from init-el too much, but in most cases it provided by your distribution and developers of the distribution. It may be used for setting some better defaults or something else. And actually it can be used for all the tasks init-el used. And inside init-el, you can disable the loading of default init-el file provided by your distribution if you, for example, doesn't like those defaults provided by your package manager or developers of your distribution. And obviously it loads after init-el, because you can disable it in init-el. Otherwise it won't be possible. And another file called site start.el is similar to default el, but it will be loaded before init.el. And in most cases, it's not recommended to set anything here which changes the default or do some other customizations, because it's harder to disable, because you can't use init.el for that. You need to specify a special command line argument to Emacs. And in most cases, it's used for some needs, for example, for loading packages or for setting some internal variables and do some other stuff that usually not visible for end user. And the way Emacs finds those files, init.el of course resides in your home folder, but default el and site start.el is found using load pass variable inside Emacs. You can open describe variable using Ctrl+HV. Oh, actually, I have keycast works, and at the top, at the header line of Emacs, you can see what commands I use and what hotkeys I use for them. And inside load pass variable, you can see a lot of passes, which contains the path to a package or a list of packages. You can see it's a lot of passes here, and how they appeared in this variable I will explain later. And one more technical thing that we need to talk about right now is Emacs load pass environment variable. It's one of the way how you can extend the value of load pass variable inside Emacs. Good day, Oscar. We covered all the necessary basics that we will use today during our exploration of how Emacs packages work in Guix, how they get loaded, installed, and so on. Another thing that we slightly touched today is a built-in package manager for Emacs called package.el. This is a quote from documentation for package.el. And what basically package manager do for Emacs, it's actually quite common among other package managers for Emacs. First of all, it downloads a package from some archive or source. It can be Elpa, Melpa, or maybe some Git repositories. In a case of package.el, it probably supports only Elpa-like repositories, and you can't download package directly from Git repository, as far as I remember. But it's not very important right now. Install, it takes the downloaded package, extract it in case of archive, and place it in some directory. After that, it generates afterloads. Afterload is a file which contains the code that should be evaluated even when package is not loaded. It's done, for example, for providing lazy loading mechanism. You can define a signature of a function, but you won't spend time for actually loading a function and loading all the dependencies of this package. You just provide a signature which can be used somewhere. For example, I can call a command, and only I invoke this command, the package actually will be loaded, and after that I will get some result from this command. But before that, I won't be spending time, for example, during startup of Emacs, to load all the stuff and all the dependency of it. Another thing that package manager can do is byte compilation. It's a generation of .elc file, byte compiled version of el file. It's done for optimization. Byte compiled files will be working a little or much faster depending on use case and scenarios, but it's sometimes important and good step, and we actually perform something like that without using package.el. Activation and load we already discussed earlier when we talked about the third point. So let's take a look at one interesting feature of package.el package. It's a list packages function. List packages basically provides a table which shows what packages is available in Emacs, and it even shows if this package is built in or installed externally. And you can click on the package and see. Let me open the same thing in a different Emacs instance. I can click on the package and see the after of the package, the description, and path where this package resides. And here I can find the source and read the source and so on. It's quite handy, and you can find some packages missing here, and I will explain later why. But most of the packages installed by Guix will be presented here. Another way to see what packages available in your Emacs using find library function. And here you can type the name of the package and see the source code of it. Of course, you can go to dirt and see all the files belonging to this package, and you can see that it contains both version el and byte compiled elc files. Hi, Alec. Okay. The list packages is a function provided by package.el. Find library is a independent function, but also very useful for exploring which packages is available in your system. That's it about package.el for today. I just tried to illustrate how usual package managers works and why we won't be using capabilities of package.el for managing our packages. I will explain later. We only touch list packages function for presenting a list of packages in a nice way. But other than that, we won't need any other stuff provided by package.el. Okay, the question is how packages created by packaged by GNU Guix appears in Emacs. And another interesting question is why anyone would like to package something for Emacs using GNU Guix. The answer is pretty easy. In reality, Emacs package sometimes depends on external binaries or some external files, and to provide those files we need to do various hacks, and some of those binaries can't be provided to your platform just by direct download or something like that, and should be built manually on your machine. So in reality, Emacs package is not only elisp code, but also the dependencies of this elisp code, which can be binaries, data files, or something like that. Here a few examples of packages, for example, AWS CLI CAPF, which depends on the data package for providing after completion for AWS CLI. Transmission package is a client for transmission BitTorrent program, which also requires a torrent launched on your host, and also ripgrep package, which requires RG binary for making some searches and so on, and many other examples, which makes elisp code dependent on some external entity. And it would be cool if package manager could provide not only elisp code, but also those binaries or data files or other dependencies which is required for this package to work properly. And this is why most package managers are not ideal, because they can't provide dependencies like LSP servers, binaries, libraries, and so on for your elisp code. And that is why GNU Guix shines here, because using this package manager you can package not only Emacs and the Lisp code, but also binaries, libraries, and so on. And this was quite long answer to this to the question why, but in reality it's just simple problem of distribution, not only elisp packages but also its dependencies. And let's see how basic Emacs package definition looks in GNU Guix. For this, I will use RD project and we'll see Emacs XYZ model. It's quite simple definition, you can see here. The name of the package, version, and home page. After that you define the source. In our case, it's Git repository. And also I need to provide a hash to make sure that the content downloaded from this repository is exactly the same thing that after of this package definition used for building this package. It's necessary for reproducibility of such packages. So anyone using this definition of the package will get the same package after it was built. After that, I specify build system. In our case, it's Emacs build system, and I specify dependencies of this package. It's Emacs dash and Emacs S libraries, which contains some auxiliary functions for manipulating sequences and so on, and some meta information like synopsis and description and license. I hope it looks very simple, and also the curious Guix users and Lisp hackers probably already thought about generating such definitions for the packages. And actually it's quite possible, and there is a repository called Guix Emacs, which contains after generated package definitions from Melpa archive. I will post a link in my notes. The downside of those after generated packages that they doesn't care about external dependencies. They care only about Emacs packages and elisp dependencies. So the package provided by this repository may not contain the binaries and all other non-elisp dependencies. So it's basically has the same downsides as usual package managers. So in most cases it's not recommended to use packages from this repository. But of course, if it's a elisp only package, or you need this package as elisp code and you provide binaries yourself and so on, you can of course use this package. Or for example, you need just a template for your package definition. It's a good starting point, but in most cases you just take a package from original Guix repository. It contains quite a lot of packages, and almost all popular packages are present here. And if they are not present, you always can contribute them. Like Emacs 3-seater. Yeah, probably Emacs 3-seater is a tricky package to a tricky thing to package because of its dependencies. So it will take some time to do it properly. Okay, we talk about package definitions in Guix. Here you can see very simple, almost similar definitions where we specify the Git repository, the hash of this version of this commit, and maybe some additional dependencies. But there's some more advanced packages. For example, Emacs Telega, which requires some binaries present in the system, and you can see that the definition for the package becomes a little more involved. Here, during the build of this package, the source code of EL files is modified, and the path to some binaries is substituted with the real binaries in the store. So when you install such package, you don't need to install additional dependencies in your system like ffmpeg or something else. They will be available in your store automatically and will be referenced by the source code, which was modified during the build phase. Is there any questions regarding packaging process of Emacs packages and its dependencies in GNU Guix? Okay, if they will appear. You can ask them and I will answer them later. Let's go to the next topic. Is how Emacs packages get loaded in Emacs. How the Emacs packages provided by GNU Guix is getting loaded in Emacs. We already talked about Emacs load path, environment variable, and site start el file. And there was reason why we covered it at the beginning, because this information will be very useful for us right now. And let's start from exploring my environment, and I will see the value of Emacs load path, and this value is equal to the share Emacs site lisp directory inside my Guix home profile. That means that the packages present in this path somehow may become a part of load path of Emacs load path, which later will be used for finding those packages inside Emacs. But to make sure that our assumption is right, let's create a new environment using nix-shell command. And we will provide ---- pure flag to see that nothing from my local.files or something else conflicts or overrides these values. And for now, I will create an environment with only one package called Emacs next pgtk latest. It's a package defined in RD repository, but the similar package is available in Guix repositories without latest suffix. And let's see search paths provided by this environment, and we can see that Emacs load path will be set to some profile containing the same share Emacs site lisp directory. And also it will provide info path with info manuals and paths which will contain Emacs and Emacs client and maybe some other binaries. Let's add some Emacs package. I don't know which one. Let's add Emacs Vertica. Good. Now you can see that the profile is have a different hash right now, so probably it was somehow changed comparing to this one. But let's first launch the Emacs without a graphical environment. In our pure environment, it will throw an error because the content of init.el contains things that is not available for this Emacs instance, but we will ignore it for now. And let's type Vertica, and we will see that there is no completion and it can't be launched. But let's change our environment and add Emacs Vertica package to it. And now Vertica mod is available. And now we have vertical completion, which is quite nice. Let's see the value of load path. Oops. As you can see here, it's still quite long list of values, but it's much shorter than my actual Emacs load pass. And here we mostly see built-in packages, and only one thing that is not built-in is Vertica. Let's take a look at our... Actually, let's open my actual Emacs load pass. And the first value will be my Guix home profile. In the case of nix-shell, it will be a newly generated profile, but the difference is not so big. It's almost the same thing. And let's see the content of site lisp directory. We can see a lot of things here, and almost all of those things are symlinks to the store. And let's do the same thing inside our nix-shell environment. You also can see the first value is a profile, and let's see the content. And here you can see that the amount of things present here much smaller. Of course, it is because in our isolated nix-shell environment we have only Vertica installed, so there is no reason to have some other things in this profile. But in my actual Emacs, you can see I have quite a lot of packages. Okay, and how those packages get loaded? We know that there is a site start.el file, which will be evaluated before init.el file and can contain some customizations that will be applied to the Emacs during startup. And let's take a look at the content. And here, inside this file, we will see only one require for Guix Emacs, the call to Guix Emacs after load packages in case the require succeed, and also it will add a device to package load all descriptors. And this function, this device I will explain later. Let's find the definition of Guix Emacs after load packages. And it's not a surprise that inside Guix Emacs EL file, in the same directory, we will find this function. Actually, this is a simple elisp package provided by Guix maintainers, which is used for loading all packages installed by GNU Guix. The code is quite simple. It just takes all the packages which are not built in, which usually resides in share Emacs site lisp directory in some profile in your environment, and loads them. More precisely, it loads only after loads files, but the idea is pretty the same. That's it. This way, all packages provided by GNU Guix package manager get loaded by Emacs using this simple site start.el file, which uses Guix Emacs helper package, and this package actually loads all other packages and makes them available in your Emacs. What we found so far, we know how startup process of Emacs looks like. We know how Emacs packages packaged in Guix and how they get loaded using site start el and Guix Emacs el helper package. We know how to find packages using find library function or using list packages. Their important note about list packages function. The list packages uses a special variable defined in package.el, which contains a list of pairs with package name and package description. And package description is obtained from el file with package suffix. And if this el file is not provided in the package, it won't appear in list packages. Few months ago, we extended Emacs build system wait a minute, Emacs build. Here we go. We extended Emacs build system with ensure package description phase, which generates this file in case it's missing. So you can view almost all packages built with Emacs build system inside list packages provided by package.el. The only exception is packages which using some other build system, but they can call this phase manually. They can add this phase in the build process, and this package.el file also will be generated. But maybe some packages are missing this phase, so they won't be shown in list packages. And yep, that's it about list packages and some restrictions related to it. Let's spend a minute talking about other package managers for Emacs. As I already mentioned, in most cases they lack a very important functionality for providing some dependencies, which is not elisp code, but binaries, libraries, data files, and so on. They may have some benefits. For example, I know that some package manager clones Git repositories, so you can navigate to those Git repositories, edit them, and create patches. And maybe it's quite handy and make the workflow for contributing patches to the packages easier. But in most cases, as end user, I can get all the binaries and other dependencies for the package using GNU Guix. I can get reproducible builds using GNU Guix, and I can get all additional optimizations like byte compilation or creating of package.el files using Emacs build system in Guix package manager. So I think it's currently one of the most useful and advanced package managers for Emacs. Funny, Guix is as a package manager for Emacs. So probably I won't be using some alternative package managers, but I don't advise anyone to do the same. Everything here is done by professionals. don't try it at home. Okay, we already know how packages created by Guix become available in Emacs, and using the similar trick, actually I started to create a special configuration packages which provides my user settings using the same mechanism which used by Guix Emacs.el. And I will show you how my actual init file looks like. Let's open config emacs init.el, and my init file looks like something very requiry. It requires a lot. Let's see what is here. Here a list of requires for configure something package, and each configure something package contains some user defined configurations related to some part of Emacs. For example, configure appearance provides some customizations that is necessary for changing look and feel of Emacs. And here you can see that there are some tweaks to modus theme, changing mod line and header line, and some other things like margins and so on. And let's see how Emacs looks without those customizations. This is a basic Emacs, and let's first evaluate configure appearance package. You can see that them changed, that toolbar and menu bar disappeared, appeared margins around my content, and mod line moved to header line, and so on. Also, let's evaluate require configure faces, and you can see that faces changed. Now I have MX and basic completion interface. Let's configure vertica. Let's evaluate configure vertica, and now we have a vertical completion. I don't have consult line yet. Let's evaluate configure completion, and you will see that on the right I have a consult line now, and now I have orderless for more flexible filtering of completion candidates and so on. And each of those packages actually generated by GNU Guix. I can show you the code related to this file. For example, here you see a file which resides in GNU store in Emacs configure appearance package. But during my usual day, I edit a file called Emacs SCM, which contains a list of RD features, and each RD feature in this file contains some Emacs related configurations. And after evaluation, this code, you can see this code contains placeholders. For example, here, if the Tropin provided, it will use blue color. If this flag is not provided, if this flag is not provided, it will use green color. For example, somewhere here you see that I use margin value, which will be actual number after this package generated, and so on. And also those values are shared among all RD features, so I can generate packages which depends on some shared values. And later those packages will be loaded by site. Actually, after loads of those packages will be loaded by Guix Emacs.el package, and will be available in Emacs, and I will be able to require them using the code you saw in my init.el file. Yep, looks quite crazy, but there is a benefit related to such a way of configuration. One of them is sharing some values across features. For example, some feature installs some binary and provides a value which contains the path to this binary. And another feature which configures Emacs can read this value and actually insert this path to elisp code. So this elisp code will be using absolute path to the binary, and I won't need to worry about if this binary present and if my elisp code work or not. I always know if this configuration is installed. All dependencies of those configurations will be installed and available as well. And another cool benefit that I showed in one of the previous streams about per project development environments is that I can use this RD feature as a standalone thing to generate Emacs packages and get a package which configures only part of the Emacs, for example, related to the project, and I can maintain those features project-wise, and everyone using this project will be able to open the environment, which loads some parts of configurations, for example, LSP server and maybe special mode for language of this all languages of this project, but not touching the rest of Emacs configuration. So the user will be able to combine their own Emacs configuration and the Emacs configuration provided by the project. And it may be quite handy, and also it will make possible to use the same configuration for Emacs for the needs of the project among the team, which I found quite interesting and appealing. Okay, let's get to the conclusion. Anyone have any questions so far, or everything is very clear? Emacs packages are not always only an elisp code, because they can depend on binaries, data files, libraries, and so on. And manual packaging, as it's done in Guix, allows to escape and avoid runtime problems when the binary is not present in your path and so on, and many other things that make usual Emacs setup so fragile. And As I mentioned earlier today, Guix is probably one of the best package managers for Emacs right now. Thank you everyone for watching my stream. I hope you enjoyed it, and make love, not war. See you.